Coach, hey, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. Do appreciate you taking the time today. Great to have somebody from PA on the channel. So thank you very much.
No, I appreciate the invitation to come on, and as I know a lot of coaches have alluded to on previous podcasts, I want to say I really appreciate all that you're doing, kind of bringing visibility to Division III soccer and all that's part of it. You know, over the last I think probably 12 to 18 months now, and you know I think really just being an advocate for the D3 game has been awesome. So I know I really appreciate all that you've done, and a lot of the other coaches as well.
Oh, thank you very much. That's really, really kind of you. I wish I could say it was intentional, like it was. It's me tripping over myself doing this. So,
regardless, intentional or not, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you again. So, hey, I just wanted to start off on something about what I think is really, really important, and that I was trying to figure out how I was going to do this, but I'll just come out and say, you know, sort of really before we begin, I just wanted to ask, how are you doing? How's the team doing? How's the York College community? I'm referring to Drew Rulicki,
yes,
you know, passing away in October. I gotta believe it's pretty heavy on you guys. So I just wanted to, reach out and just ask how things are going at this point.
yeah, no, I really appreciate you asking that, and yeah, it's been almost 6 months now, and honestly, it's still there's certain moments of certain days, and even as we've kind of into the main part of our spring season here, and I'm watching back some film from games in the fall and continuing to find ways to refine our spring season. I see Drew on the field in certain games, and so there's just those memories and everything, and it still seems surreal at certain moments. But yeah, I think that was a challenge as a coach and a person, and just nothing that could have prepared me or us as a team. But the way, and I'll just say, even in the middle of our season, as hard as and challenging as it was, that the game of soccer really was that outlet each day for our guys to be together on the field. And Drew's mom kind of put it best when they came back to campus a few days after his passing, and she just said, you know, for the guys to play the game they love with the teammates they love. So we try to simplify it in that way, and I think even now into the spring season, try to remind the guys of that. And but yeah, I think that even 6 months out now, just the support that we've had from the campus community here at York, the athletic department, different counselors on campus has been, and even more so, coaches throughout the country that I've never met, and the outpouring of support that we got right after it happened from Division III teams, men, women, kind of all over the country. It was overwhelming, but incredibly important for our players and for our coaching staff as well. And but yeah, for our players, I can't say how proud I am, and I guess it's hard to say you're proud during a challenging tragedy like that, but the way that they stuck together and continued to support each other and really fight for each other on the field to honor Drew and honor his legacy, and really, we just talked about it as a really painful gift to help not only the players but us as coaches be reminded of, how fortunate we are to get to be part of college soccer and the experience that it is. And I think for me as well, like in the middle of the season, you get caught in the day-to-day stuff and preparing for games and scouting reports and everything else, but just, truly appreciating and enjoying that opportunity to be around each other, as a team, as a coaching staff, just everything. And so it was, we kind of used that message of a painful gift to remind our players to appreciate those things. And they just, they supported each other. They really appreciate all the support from, as I said, a lot of other programs throughout the country and the campus. But it's there's certain moments still where guys have harder days and harder moments, which is to be expected. And there's, we talked about there's no blueprint or a plan on how to best deal with that. And each guy handles it in a different way. But we really just wanted to try to be there for Drew's family, his mom, Jan and Teresa, and his sister, Katie, obviously from that side of things. And me being a parent of 3 young children and seeing it and trying to think through their eyes as well, the loss, the unexpected loss of such an incredible young man. And Drew really was that. I mean, he was everything a coach could dream about. And obviously any loss of a young person is a tragedy. But Drew, I mean, a 4.0 student, he was literally the best teammate you could ever imagine. In his first 2 years, COVID, and then even his sophomore year, went through some injuries, wasn't on the field, but he just did everything he could to serve his teammates and be part of the program. And, he was one of those guys that really did just enjoy the game of soccer and I think had a great perspective on life. And so, there's certain days, as I said, that are in certain moments that are harder than others. But Drew, even in his just over 2 years as part of our program, left an immense legacy that continues to stay with us. So, yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. And like I said, the support that we've gotten from programs, teams, coaches around the country, our campus community, that we still feel 6 months after has been genuinely appreciated.
Well, my heart goes out to you guys and to his family. And it was when I saw the news, it's like as a parent, like, how do you react to that? There's, like you said, there's no blueprint. Yeah. So I'll just leave it at that.
No, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So if I understand this correctly, you've been the head coach at York for what, 9 years?
This is I came back 2015, so eight years, and I guess without COVID, 7 seasons. So, yeah, I've spent between 4 years playing here and 8 years coaching, essentially a third of my life here on York's campus. So,
okay. So let me ask you, what's been your experience like, your soccer journey, so to speak, and how did you end up becoming the head coach at York?
Yeah, I think, even from starting at a young age, I played a lot of different sports, but soccer was always my biggest passion and the sport that I really loved. And my dad coached me at a young age and helped me to fall in love with the game, and then had some, I think, really impactful coaches from even the youth level after my dad, throughout club and even into high school. Dale Stoltzfus, who was my coach, who just made such an incredible impact, not just from a playing standpoint, but from a coaching standpoint and personal growth. So played club, all my life as well, up through, high school, and played for Club Leeds United, which is now PA Classics. And then,
very familiar with PA Classics. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of my playing journey, and heading into college, and I was kind of all over the place. Didn't know what I wanted to major in. Didn't know how far from home I wanted to go. I just knew I wanted to play, college soccer. And, so ultimately York, I grew up about an hour from here. So York ended up being a great fit. I had an awesome 4-year experience, as a player here. Just the relationships, the people on campus. Even after I graduated, I still had no definitive idea what I wanted to do. And I made I'd work some soccer camps throughout the summers just to make some money and keep busy. But, and graduating 2008, so it was during recession, so limited opportunities. And so I did a job at a small medical sales company. But I started to coach club and worked with Dale Stoltz, who's my high school coach, as an assistant. And during that year and a half, coaching club in high school is when I really just fell in love with, the coaching side of it. And now I'm not playing. And so that opportunity to kind of give back to the game, but still be connected and share from my experiences, and hopefully allowing other young men and young women to grow was really, really cool. And so it wasn't until that point in time that I ever knew that coaching college soccer could actually be a career path and a profession. And so after doing that for a year and a half, coaching high school and club, I was fortunate enough. I got my foot in the door as a graduate assistant at Goucher College under Brian Lott. So
Maryland,
when you talk about, falling in and being really fortunate to get into great scenarios. So from a winning perspective and on-field success, those 2 years at Goucher, we weren't competing at the highest level, but the experience that I had with Brian, learning from him, the responsibility he gave me, the recruiting side, because he had come from being at Division II, and then he was at Lafayette for 6 years, and so he just had a wealth of knowledge that he was allowed me to get my foot in the door and shared experience. And so that was, he really helped me to, again, continue to find my passion in college coaching. So then after my graduate assistant position there, I went down to Virginia Wesleyan for 2 years as the full-time assistant on the men's side. And that, again, was a really good growth opportunity for me as an assistant. Chris Mills, who was an alum down there of Virginia Wesleyan and first-time head coach. So we were really kind of going through things together and learning. But fortunate to be on the staff, won a conference championship, got to play in the NCAA tournament. So it was a really, really cool experience. And living in Virginia Beach and coaching college soccer full-time was awesome.
Tough life.
Yeah. And Jeff Bowers, who's the women's coach down there, is a York alum and actually was the connection point to helping me get down there, and ultimately met my wife down there. And
Nice.
And then so, after being there for 2 years and 4 years as an assistant, kind of just feeling ready for that next step and, kind of keep my eyes open for potential opportunities, Division III head coaching opportunities. And, being from Central PA, and my wife being from Central PA, was always a goal kind of long-term to get back to Central PA in some capacity, to be around family and still have the opportunity to coach. So I interviewing for jobs in New England, out in Ohio, but then as I was kind of looking through it and the opportunity at York presented itself. And so I was really, and still am, humbled and thankful to be able to coach at my alma mater, and I think not just to coach here, but it was just such a place that had an awesome 4-year impact on me while I was here as a student athlete. And I think, just the people in the athletic department, but all around campus, it's just a place that I love being. And so, as I said, I've spent about 12 years here, 1/3 of my life. And so that's, it's kind of got me to where I'm at today. So about 12 years in college coaching as my career at this point. I've been coaching club as well, kind of around the college season. So I know for me, I would be terrible at sitting behind a desk and having that be my full-time career. So I think just, college coaching is such a cool opportunity, that I get to pursue and to do it at York, at my alma mater, at a place, that I have a real passion and appreciation for. I think is something I try to be grateful for.
So I will just say, I think if you ever decide to go back, the medical instrument or the medical device industry will still be there. So fear not.
Probably a little bit more, but that's okay. I found the career path I'm passionate about and one that I love coming to every day. But I able to see some of our alums go into some amazing careers in similar medical field, everything else. So no, I'm happy and thankful to be in college coaching.
I mean, like you said, I mean, you come out of this as a player. You 12 years in coaching, different schools, different regions. Do you think players have gotten better in that time period, or do you think that they're just different, or have they gotten more tactical, technical, that sort of thing? Basically, are we developing players?
Yeah, I will say, even from my experience, and I think it's a question as I've listened to other podcasts that you've had with coaches and thought through that, there were still really good players, a lot of really good players, when I was playing 2005, 2009, even before that. And, I got to play with John Ports, who was the National Player of the Year in Division III when I was here, just to see some of that individual quality that was there. Even when I played, I just think, I look back and I'm like, we barely watched film. We didn't really talk a ton about tactics and, so I think the game, especially in the United States across all levels, has really developed. And now we have everything, heart rate and GPS tracking systems. We can upload a game as soon as we're done and it's broken down by the next morning for us and all these stats and everything. So, but I will say, I think because of the commitment, even at the Division III level, mostly full-time head coaches and a lot of programs moving to full-time assistants, the recruiting piece and essentially the necessity that is recruiting to want to compete at a high level of Division III, I think that's made the parity and the overall competitive level even better than it was, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think there's still really good players back in when I played, and I'm sure even before. And I just think that parity and that competitive level across the board makes it more challenging as a coach. But I think now it's then how do you factor in all of those other aspects outside of recruiting, of day-to-day player management and watching film, and factoring all those other things that I'm like, I look back on my 4-year career, I'm like, we didn't really talk about managing our bodies as much as we do now, or watching film, or we did some scouting reports, but it's like now I can watch any game or any team I want to, but we didn't have that luxury before. So for better or for worse, and I think that allowed us to focus on ourselves and our team development a bit more. But no, I do. I think the Division III level and the landscape has continued to really just get more competitive across the board, and maybe even teams and programs that when I was playing weren't in a top 25 or competing for national championships, and even the emergence of a lot more competition within conferences. I think it's great for the game, because ultimately you want your players to play in important, high-level competitive games, and I think that commitment to recruiting, especially over the last 10 to 12 years, has really kind of been that driving force. And then as you factor in all the technology advancements, that help and support that, I think it's really helped develop the game at the college level.
I almost think like there's more better players. Like you said, there were good players back then when you played, back when I played, but there's more, seems to be more of them, right? So maybe that's a good thing.
No, I
hey,
agree with you.
Can you talk? Yeah. Oh,
I think I was with
go
a
ahead.
recruit yesterday, just kind of perspective on, we were talking about where our guys play futsal in the winter. I'm like, I don't even think we talked about futsal in 2000s and when I was at college.
No.
So even like that commitment and idea of the game and the technical side of the game and how you can play futsal during the winter. And so I just think even from kind of those little nuances of the development process for players has allowed guys to advance and develop a lot more. And it really, I think, like you said, there's, I think, a higher quantity of quality players at the Division III level than there was 10 years ago.
Could you just talk a little bit about the MidAtlantic Conference? You guys are a little funky. The NESCAC is the NESCAC. They got their own sort of funk. The ODAC has their own sort of weirdness. And then you guys, the MAC has 2 conferences within the MAC. Not sure I get that. But I think you guys play in the Commonwealth, which...
Yes.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but you happen to be in the same conference as Messiah and Widener had a banger of a year this year. Maybe just get your perspective on the conference.
Yeah, it's been interesting the last, I think, 5 years, especially to see some of the shifting of Division III conferences. And we were in the Capital Athletic Conference for almost 30 years. We were one of the founding schools. So Mary Washington, Salisbury, St. Mary's, Christopher Newport,
another banger.
Some really competitive teams. And so when we ended up making the shift and the switch to the MAC, you're right, it is kind of a unique setup, that there's 2 sides of it, the Commonwealth and the Freedom. And even within the past 2 years, there's been some shifting of teams from one side to the other, two teams leaving to go to the Landmark. But kind of where we're set now, and as you said, kind of that elephant in the room of, okay, now we're going to play against, Messiah in the same conference. And for us, I think over the last 15 years, even before we went into the MAC, we played against Messiah out of conference. So it was kind of that out of conference rivalry for us. And obviously with the success that they've had the past 2 decades, was incredibly impressive. And, I think that's just the reality of confronting that going into it. And now we've played them for 15 years out of conference and had some really positive results against them at times, but it's always just been, a really healthy competitive rivalry. And, I nothing but respect for, Brad and what he's done there, since taking over for Dave Brandt. But I think within our side of the conference, the Commonwealth as well, as I look across to the Freedom, Stevens went to the Final Four this year. So that side of the conference has some, and they have some really good teams as well. But, for us, even as I look back 21 to 22 within our conference, I think it's a really competitive level. And obviously Messiah has kind of been at the forefront of that and the number one seed and winning 2 conference championships. But, I look at the other teams and how they've competed around that. In 2021, Lebanon Valley College had a great year. I think they were like 14-5, and they ended up playing against Messiah in the conference championship, and it was a really competitive game. And then you look to 2022, and LVC wasn't in the top 5, so they didn't make the conference playoffs this year. But Widener, who didn't make the playoffs in 2021, Ross did a fantastic job with that group, and they had a great year, and so they end up playing Messiah in the conference championship. So but I think just across the board as well, and Alvernia, Casey does a great job there year in and year out, and Stevenson as well. But I think it's a really competitive league for soccer for us, and it's interesting because in years past, when Lycoming was in the Commonwealth with Messiah, and it had become a really good competitive battle between those two teams at the top typically, and so you never really know until you get into the conference what it looks like coming from a conference where you had been as a program in the school for over 25 years, but we had played a number of the same teams in out of conference games, but so the footprint for travel is a little less than it was for us in our previous conference, but I think the competitive level year in and year out has, for these first 2 years for us experiencing it has been awesome.
Hey, do they cross over at any point? Do you do like the champion of the Freedom and the Commonwealth? They play each other in a championship, or there's two champions?
Yes, so they don't play each other or in like an outright champion. So actually, as far as I know, the MAC was the last conference grandfathered into the idea that you can have 2 separate sides of a conference and both have an AQ. So, both sides have an automatic qualifier. I don't think there's ever been like whoever wins that conference championship plays against each other or what that looks like, but it would certainly be entertaining. But I know a lot of the teams do kind of play crossover games in non-conference. In the earlier part of the season, but I think both sides of the conference, it's really competitive.
I think, I mean, you can build a pretty darn good, strong schedule just by playing your conference and then teams on the other side, right? Like there's enough talent and enough strength of schedule, that sort of stuff that that could be a real windfall for you.
Thankfully that helps us in terms of scheduling, strength of schedule, and even geographically I think we're located centrally enough within the Mid-Atlantic that even within 2.5 hours, Centennial, Landmark, some other really competitive leagues that go play those teams in non-conference and set ourselves up for a pretty competitive schedule.
I would say PA, you could draw like wherever you are, draw a 2-hour. So, like you go 2 hours, you're gonna play a heck of a schedule. Like it's gonna just by who's there, right? Like, what are your sort of like main areas of recruiting? Do you focus in on mostly PA kids, or is it more national? Oh, I'm just curious.
So I would say, primarily Mid-Atlantic, and I'd say it's pretty similar to even when I played here, kind of the makeup of the team, but trying to find that balance of like what's kind of our niche region / states to recruit out of, but also wanting to kind of see if there's other regions or other states that we can try to establish some connections. So most of our guys, New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania. We have a lot of guys from Maryland. We've gotten into Virginia a bit more now, which has been good for us. And so we have 2 guys on our roster from North Carolina. So we've been able to kind of start a connection point there and a little bit of a pipeline, which has been good. But the majority of our time spent is kind of not just necessarily in Pennsylvania. As we talked about, there's a lot of leagues, a lot of teams. It's highly competitive. So we try and kind of where we're at, essentially a 3.5 hour radius throughout the Mid-Atlantic, and that's kind of the makeup of our roster and primarily for our recruiting as well.
And you don't you don't go wrong there, like you got such quality of soccer in that 3.5 hour area. Like it's not like, oh my gosh, I wish I could go somewhere else. I'm sure there's places that would envy having that amount of soccer in that close proximity.
Yeah, without a doubt. So that certainly helps with recruiting and travel and everything else.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, and what I mentioned earlier, but with everything that sort of went on, how do you think your season went?
I think I would say it was a step in the right direction for sure. And I say that kind of assessing it based off of 2021 and where we were and as a team, and obviously coming off of 2020 without a season. And we went into 2021. We only had 4 guys on our roster that had ever started a college soccer game. So the reality is we were young, and through I think the first 9 games we were like 2-6-1, and we had the number one strength of schedule in our region, but from like a belief standpoint and getting results, it was hard, and our guys continue to fight back, and so I say all that because we only lost 2 seniors that year, so we essentially returned our entire team heading into 2022, and our guys kind of reset some expectations and standards, and our guys did a great job throughout the spring season last year, and then kind of carried that momentum into the fall. And so going from starting the season 2-6-1 in 2021, and then this year through our first 7 games we were 5-0-2. It's 2 very drastically different first halves of a college season, and again essentially the same team with a freshman class of 6 guys coming in, but so I think from that standpoint, really good step in the right direction. And I just think, especially at the college level, that idea of momentum and belief, both
huge.
Individually for players, but as a team. In 2021, we kind of felt it in the adverse way of, how do we get a result and get some momentum going? And we just never really did. We found a way into the playoffs. But this year, you could see our guys from getting those first couple wins and scoring some goals, which we struggled with in 2021. That momentum and that belief, that carried us through most of the first half of the year. After those first 7 games of when we were 5-0-2, dropped a couple results on the road against Marymount when we had a lead and let that go, and then lost to Rochester 1-0 at home on a goal right before half. So I think that kind of, I don't say brought us back to reality, but starting the way we did this year. I was really proud of the guys, knowing where we had come from in 2021 and knowing the work that they had put in, that last 10 months leading up to our fall 2022 season. So, and then obviously, with Drew's unexpected death kind of right in the middle of the season, I had no idea where our season was going to go. I don't think anyone did, or what that looked like. And obviously, soccer became very secondary to the life and supporting our players and Drew's family and everything else. But, our guys and Drew's family decided that we're going to play against Messiah 4 days after Drew's passing. And, that our guys and Drew's parents wanted us to carry on with the games as scheduled. And, our players, just like I said, continue to fight through it. And so we had a couple tough results even after that, against Alvernia at home. But our like I said, even if we wouldn't have made playoffs or won every game, like the way our guys just handled that tragedy was remarkable. But in saying that, like we ended up getting a couple road results that we needed to find our way into the playoff, and got the 4th seed. So we hosted the quarterfinal against Stevenson and advanced the semifinal where we played Messiah a second time. So so if you look kind of from the year before 6-9-3 to going 10-6-3, and like I said, I think the start of the season that we had was really awesome to see the guys get a bit of validation for all the hard work that they put in, and just continuing to work and not making excuses for 2021 and, having a sub 500 year, and they just bought in, they worked hard. And, so I obviously like we talked about with Drew's death kind of in the heart of the season, was a challenge, and kind of still is, but our guys just continue to show up and work for each other. And, like I said earlier, kind of get to play the game they love with the guys they love, on the team. And so I think, and when you talk about within conference, we lost in the quarterfinals in 2021. We advanced to the semifinals. So, obviously we want to be playing for MAC Commonwealth conference championship, but that was a step forward from where we were the year before. So I think all in all, we have some high expectations and standards and ambitions as a program, but I do, in context from where we were not having a season 2020 to the challenges of 2021 to that step forward this past fall, I was really proud of our guys. But as we talk about, there's always work to be done for sure.
I am. I've been saying for a while that your first 6 games, I think it's usually 5 or 6, dictate sort of the pace or the direction of your season. So if you bang out 6 wins in a row, there is so much energy going into usually conference play, right? And that it'll carry you through some difficult things. When you don't do well in those, like that does the same thing, like you had mentioned, like you experience the momentum on the opposite side, right? Like, yeah, like where are we going to get a win? Like all this stuff creeps into your mind.
Yeah.
That to me is like a critical piece of it all. All right, so I mean, you had 3 ties, which isn't a lot in consideration, but thoughts on the no OTs? Would you prefer to have OT, or would you vote still no or yes, whatever you voted?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this question and even listened to some of the other coaches and their perspectives. And I don't have a definitive answer to a full proponent 100% this way or the other way. I mean, I think back to even as a player, some of the golden goal overtime, games, and for better, for worse, like those resonate. And those are games and memories you carry with you from a playing standpoint. Even some of the games leading up to this point, and kind of where we're at. And so, I mean, I think even back to 2019, we played Messiah and we were up 2-1 and they scored with 15 seconds left to make it 2-2. And then they ended up beating us 3-2 in overtime. And it's like you could feel when they tied it up that momentum shift. And so it changes the complexity of things without a doubt. But I understand it without a doubt from the kind of player safety side and wanting to advocate for them. And you want to be as healthy as possible. I mean, we had 2 guys tear their ACLs, 2 upperclassmen and starters, and one was a captain, tear their ACLs in preseason. And so it's just of how much, with the load are you putting on the guys and, trying to manage that best throughout the season so you can, like you said, kind of really build that momentum and hopefully heading into conference play, be hitting your stride. And so I haven't made a definitive decision on which way. I understand the player safety and playing, such a compressed and condensed schedule. It's challenging. It's hard for these guys. And, but also I just think back to some of those memories of games of, golden goals and overtimes and celebrating or maybe heartbreak. But I think back to even this early on, like when we played St. Mary's and we were up 1-0 and we conceded a goal with 8 seconds left. And, if we go to overtime, I think they have the momentum scoring that late goal to take it. So, it's one of those things. I thought we played pretty well, but we conceded a late goal. And if we go and play into overtime, I don't know what that looks like. So I can see both sides. So, like I said, I don't have a definitive answer on fully which way I support in that.
I go back and what day is today? Today is Friday. Yeah, I guess I'm in favor of the OT. So like I just can't make up my mind because again, the justification for OT, the emotional experience of it all, that to me is probably the only real thing that I have that I like overtimes. That's the only thing I got.
No, 100%.
There's nothing like it. Like you said, good and bad. Like you're gonna. There's a winner, loser, what have you. But that emotional charge, you'll never. It's hard to experience in the course of a regular game, in a 90-minute game.
100%.
All right. So what? Are you done with your spring season yet, or are you still?
So we are. Yeah, we're finishing up our 4th week, so we kind of split ours, do 3 days per week. Our guys were off for a spring break last week, so that kind of just threw a little bit more space into it. So we're finishing up week 4 actually tonight, and then Next week is our last week, and then we'll play on Sunday, April 23rd. We'll play against Gettysburg for our spring game.
Where is that going to be?
We're hosting it at York.
What's the date?
April 23rd at 1 p.m.
Okay. Might have to. It is.
Mark
I
it on
just
your
wrote it down because I'm like, that's the thing I'd love to do, and it's impossible, right? Like it's just not impossible, but it's just really difficult. Like I'd love to sort of, like I think the spring is super important, right? Like for a whole host of reasons, and I've learned, if anything, talking to coaches of how, even in your minds, how important the spring is. It's not ideal, all of those things. It's not enough time, not enough games, what have you, but it's still super important for the fall. So I really focused in on the spring, and so I'd love to catch a game. And if I can swing it, I might just happen to be in York, PA. I'll make it an educational tour, like battlefield or Civil War sites.
If you stop in, I'll put a hat and a
Yes.
shirt. So let me know if you're going to.
Let me ask you a couple more questions, and then I'll let you get on with your day. But what's your recruiting class look like? Is it done? Do you are you still looking for guys? Just more, is there anything that you're looking to complement specifically with the class?
Yeah, so we graduate 7 players, 7 awesome guys. Within that, 2 starters. So we do have, projected out nine guys that played significant starting roles coming back for next year. So within our recruiting class, we have 6 guys, and then 1 transfer committed for the fall. So there's the possibility at this point in time. We have 2 other guys that we're still in communication with, talking with, kind of waiting on a few other things. So there's the possibility we may add 1 more, but I like our group. To be honest, you never really know until they come in and what that looks like. And there's always typically one guy that you think is going to come in and crush it and make a huge impact right away, and maybe takes a little bit longer to transition to the college game. And maybe there's another guy within that class that you might have the same expectations for breaking through right away, but come in and compete and can play a significant role. So, but no, I really like our group, and we have a couple guys from PA, from the same Lehigh Valley team, and then down into Maryland, and then 1 from Jersey, and then Virginia. And then we actually have a player transferring in, one of the brothers of our graduating senior captain. So he's coming to us next year with 3 years left. So no, I think it's a good group. And again, I'll be interested to see. We talked about that next step forward, and what does that look like heading into 2023. And I think this is a group that can come in and continue to push our standard forward on the field. And I think it's a great group of guys as well that will really complement, our team environment and our team culture, and, just be a really good fit. So maybe 1, potentially 2 more within that. But I think the group that we have kind of solidified right now at this point for the fall, we're excited about that group.
So I got to ask, because I have to ask. So it's not the last question or semi-last question. Like the transfer, can you just sort of give some color on that? Is it just because he's his brother, and did he go somewhere? Is he Division I? Like that sort of, like some context?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And without giving his name, I had recruited him as well coming out of high school, and so he ended up going to and selecting a good program that was at a different level than Division III, and didn't quite work out in terms of best fit. And obviously, everybody, if they decide to transfer, has their own reasons. But knowing I had a personal and previous relationship in terms of the recruiting process, and getting to coach his brother. Not only I coached him in club in high school, and then also here at York, and just knowing him and the family. And so I think, we don't, when I played here at York, we had a lot of transfers now, and I don't intentionally seek them out a lot, but for the right player, And typically there is some sort of connection. Either I'd previously
Yeah.
recruited them and they chose to go to a different school. But we don't, maybe one a year, but not even one a year typically. So, but yeah, I think for the right guy and the right fit, and obviously for the right reasons, I'm open to that for sure.
That's what I not like to hear, but that's what I hear quite a bit, is that the activity on the transfer side for most places is because you had previously recruited, and for whatever reason they go wherever they go, right? It's a decision that they make, and then they just sort of come back and
absolutely.
like, hey, I just want to experience that. So yeah, I was just curious. It's always, again, it's the thing of the last few years, right? And I'm sure it's going to be around for a while now that the cat's out of the bag. I'm not sure the NCAA is going to be able to I don't know what you do with transfers and how you would. I don't know how those rules would work, but
I'm not smart enough to solve
I'm with you. Like, so. I'm like, I don't know. Like, they're allowed, they're not allowed. I don't know how to, because I think there's, and I've said this a few times. Like, there's a difference to me with a kid who goes somewhere with the expectation, like, academically, I'm going to be doing all this. This is what I want. And then has a sudden change of heart, change of mind, like making it up, goes to a technical school because they want to be an engineer, suddenly realize, man, I'm really into creative writing, so I'm in the wrong spot. I get all that. My thing is the kids that go for soccer, not damn everything else, but yeah, everything else is whatever. And then for whatever reason, it doesn't work out for them. The first thing they do is they bail and they go somewhere else, which could be the same scenario. It's just they're taking advantage of what the NCAA is given. But that's just my take. Okay, so just last question for you. What do you? I mean, if you were sort of had to, I'm sure you're still working on those, but do you have any specific goals in mind for the fall? Knowing that you're looking at this as a progression, right? Last year we were here, this year we were here, next year.
Yeah, so I think, and one word that we use within our program a lot is the idea of consistency, and obviously that's with consistent development and improvement every single year, as a team, for the guys individually, and we have not set any clear goals for the fall. We've really talked about maximizing our time during the spring, and setting some clear objectives in terms of the team environment, but also what we need to get accomplished on the field, because you alluded to, I think this spring and the spring season in general does play an important factor into building that belief and momentum heading into the fall. And we saw that last spring and what that created for us this fall. So I think our guys have done a really good job this spring, but maybe it's short-sighted on my end about not setting those clear objectives or goals for the guys yet for the fall. But we really are just trying to talk about like squeezing the most we can out of these 5 weeks together during the spring season. And then, we've been having meetings with a couple guys that we have in our leadership group and kind of now thinking out towards, what we need to set up leading into the summer and into the fall. But I think when we talk about consistency and that continuous improvement and, from not only overall wins and getting to double-digit wins, but even within the conference, going from the quarterfinals to the semifinals, it's like, all right, well now, that site needs to be set on competing for a MAC Commonwealth Championship. And I think that is where, with the group that we have returning and kind of our expectations, I think that is going to be a key objective for us is competing for a MAC Conference Championship. And, and our guys, although we took a good step forward this fall, like they're hungry, they've been working incredibly hard. And so you never know. Like I said, coming out of COVID was one thing, but they took a good step forward this year. But, we got a pretty challenging schedule coming up in the fall. And, for our guys and, for, I think, big picture the next 2 years, especially because of our guys that are juniors that were freshmen during COVID, 7 of those 9 guys are coming back for that 5th year. So really the next 2 years we have the main core of our team. And so it's kind of those guys resetting expectations each year and driving the team forward in terms of where we want to go. So I guess long-winded answer, no, we have not set like out and out clear objectives, or I haven't sat them down and said, this is where, but we've talked about it, and we've really talked about increasing the standards, every day when we're out training, and also their expectations and what that looks like when they show up each day, especially during our spring season, and really squeezing and maximizing the most out of this time we have. So they've done a good job. Obviously, like I said, we got just over a week left, and Gettysburg's a really strong team, and Mark does a great job with them. So I'm excited to see, where we can progress and what that looks like against Gettysburg, and hopefully, like I said, continuing to really, cultivate that momentum and that belief as, we come back for the fall in August.
That's interesting that you have and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like this 2-year trajectory, like you're thinking, hey, this year is a big, this is like could be a big step forward, but we have a 2-year progression here that we could work because we know that the core of our guys, I think that's super helpful, right? Because that's a lot of pressure. If this is it, like this is all we got, this is it, right? Next year, who knows, right? Like, I think that ends up could work into your favor, right? Like reducing the amount of pressure, and hey, we got to keep learning, keep getting forward. So, all right, Coach, this is fantastic. Really, really enjoyed our time together. Do appreciate it. I'm seriously going to look about the April 23rd, see if I can't figure out a way. I got to look at my calendar. Who knows? My calendar's a mess, but
no, just let me know if you're swinging by, and that would be awesome. I think like I said, Mark does a great job at Gettysburg, so hopefully it's a highly competitive and good game for both of us. For sure.
I'm sure I always enjoy watching games. So I'm one of those guys. Like, it's a game. Oh, look, Guatemala in second division. Yeah, I could watch that. I don't know. So, all right, Coach. Great talking to you. Do appreciate it, and best of luck. And again, hearts out to you guys. We'll talk soon.
No, thanks for the invitation to come on, and like I said, for advocating and bringing light to Division III soccer, and really appreciate all that you've done, and look forward to further podcasts with other coaches as well. So thanks again.
And we'll connect in the just before the fall. If I'll send you an email if you have time. We'll do hey, how does the season look and stuff like that. So all right.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach.
Thanks, man.
If you like this show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also find me on anti-social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks. This is a message from my Chief Marketing Officer. I think this keeps him happy.